All right, Brent. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm excited. All right, I wrote you an intro. With the most optimal kindness to tallness ratio, Brent Christy is a director of movies, director of photography, and director of our hearts. Known for names like Blue Ridge, the County Line Trilogy, and The Warrant, Brent is committed to leading large on-set teams as well as fantasy soccer teams with excellence, consideration, and conviction. As a filmmaker and as a friend, Brent has never received a single negative review. Don't believe me? Check his IMDb. Without further ado, please welcome Brent Christy. This is Cruise Control.
Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you. We're going to talk about all sorts of things. We start every episode the same way. What is your favorite crafty snack?
You know, the simple answer when I'm grabbing to go, there's not time and it's just you're in the moment. I think the apple water simplicity is something that I tell myself is the way to go. I think anything with a crunch though is the way to achieve optimal happiness and satisfaction. You know, when you got to chew through something, sometimes it's literal and figurative.
But it has to crunch.
Yeah. If it's, you crush a bag of chips, if you don't want to get your hands dirty in the moment, you're still kind of working, but it's like you have a minute, I think that the crushed chip bag, I'll sacrifice texture for, as texture and experience for just kind of a quick intake.
I love it. All right, man. Tell me where you grew up, where you're from, and how you got started into filmmaking.
Yeah, I'm from Port Huron, Michigan. I can show you on the map right here. It's like this thumb part of the state, and grew up in that region. And just after high school, was doing cable access television, running cameras and audio and laying down cables and announcing high school hockey games, city council meetings and things like that. So it was the perfect scenario for, freelance production now, which is, sometimes you just do a little bit of everything, and getting that right off the bat was an amazing experience.
What was it like growing up in Michigan? What were you like as a kid, and how did you have like a shaped trajectory to go into that after high school?
I think my parents were pretty cool people in general to me, and my dad did a lot of graphic design, and he did a lot of silk screen printing and illustration for local brands in the region. So he was always a drafting board. And we got to go see him downtown Port Huron at the shop he worked at, the graphic shop, and then you'd see his little corrugated signs in the windows of places like London's Dairy, which is an amazing shop that's not there anymore. But there's like little things like that. Oh, we go to the ice cream shop, and that's my dad made that ad that they hired the company to make. So I think I was always around drawing and ideas and comic books and stuff like that, and that always my first goal was to be a comic book illustrator, and until I tried it and then realized I didn't have any I couldn't get what was in my brain into my hand to make my hand do the thing I wanted it to do. So I think from that period I always chased something visual. But I don't think it was until I started working at the cable access television station through audio means. I was always interested in music and audio and sound mixing as well. So when I had a teacher tell me, I should try radio. You have a voice for radio. Maybe you could do this. And I think just kind of trying a lot of things until I picked up a camera for the first time and said, oh, I see a future, or I can see forward, engineering this device and pushing it to make an image was really interesting to me.
What kind of comic books are you into?
Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man was probably the first era that I really latched onto, and it's 1990, 1991, and there was also a lot of spin-off. The Deadly Foes of Spider-Man was one of the first like six issue arcs that I jumped into. So there's a lot of simple stuff like that at the very beginning, and I mean nowadays there's so many amazing artists and indie artists, and that I didn't understand that idea outside of the superhero comic books at the time. But of course the 90s animation shows like the X-Men, Spider-Man, and what have you, I think also played into that.
I think we were all formed by a 90s Spider-Man cartoon in some way.
I mean, when you hear those guitar riffs, I mean, of course, Power Rangers had it as well. It's you just hear that and you're transported to what you could be as a human.
Mighty Morphin us into who we were meant to be.
Yeah. I've got 2 kids, 2 boys, 8 and 6, and we just watched the original Power Rangers, the pilot again with them, and they were kind of like, this is all right. Well, my wife and I are like, let's check this out. And look how big, there's a lot of amazing cinematography tricks in there of, like a force perspective and, just playing with depth and, having a person look giant and they're like looking up to the giant. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff to learn even now if you're really interested in the form. And
that's awesome. I have not considered going back to watch Power Rangers from a analytical cinematography perspective. And maybe now myself and listeners included are going to do that. There's going to be a surge of the views.
I think if you open yourself up to it, most things have value that you can glean from it, if not all. I mean, it really, the Paul Thomas Anderson comment about, it's really hard to make something and to criticize it to oblivion, me paraphrasing here, is, it only goes so far. I think if it, there is usually a redeeming value in the things that are out there. And there's usually a heart behind it and a mind behind it that, should be respected for, what it took to make the thing. I think that can't be discounted.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Even in Power Rangers.
Especially in Power Rangers.
Which is rehashed footage from, a Japanese show and then thrown into, this American and teenager environment, which is a funny thing on its own, but there's a lot to get from.
Okay, this isn't a comedy? No, it's biblical. Talk to me about music. You said that music and sound mixing and audio engineering was a catalyst for you in a way. What was that like, and what was that to you?
Well, I think much like my experiences with illustration and wanting to be a comic book illustrator, picking up a guitar and being behind a soundboard, I also realized my limitations of interest and execution is probably the way to put it. I couldn't get past the barrier of guitar where I wanted to do that little bit extra. I had just enough fun playing in pop punk bands, jumping around on a stage, and like that experience was what I gleaned out of it. I did marching band for years in high school, playing the trombone. So like that experience, I only took it so far, but I always loved the marching element and the diagrams of, how do you get from A to B and these giant formations of people moving in very odd formations. All that stuff, I only took it so far is how I view it now. But I've always had an interest in the craft and a respect for it.
Do you still play guitar?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
No, I haven't touched it in years. But Steph and I have always talked about just having the guitar around the boys and just giving them at least that feeling. We play music in the house or we play stuff just throughout just to see what they're interested in. And we got one of those Craigslist pianos from uptown Charlotte where I had a Ford F-150 for a few years and I drove uptown and just like parked in the road and picked up a piano from somebody who's giving it away on Craigslist. You can always get an electric piano on Craigslist for free because people are just giving them away because they've stopped taking lessons or they've stopped using it. So we'll have ours for another few years until we put ours on Craigslist. But for now, my kids like to jump out at it, and I don't play piano, neither does Steph, but we love that feeling of just having that instrument there and playing around with it. So I think that environment of what can be is always interesting to us.
Totally. Let's talk about the job that you got into after high school. You said you were in broadcast?
Yeah, so cable access, like Wayne's World sort of environment. Unfortunately, there weren't a lot of the local creators like Wayne and Garth. That didn't exist. But we had my job was it consisted of high school sports, of city council meetings, of all these different local events where you can kind of there's a PBS element to it where you can, if you contact the cable access station in your area, they'll come record something for a fee or even for free, depending on what the organization is. So we would do that. We would, DVDs were just starting to be an affordable thing where we could, we had, they were just phasing out the reel-to-reels. They had, we still had mini DV and Betacam tapes, and we would transfer them to DVD. That was a big part of my job, so it was fun to be around. That turned into technology of linear editors being in-house in places and seeing, what that was like to work on one. So there's a lot of little things that I took from that. But from there, I went to Full Sail after I wanted to learn more about the camera and kind of fell in love with lighting and camera in a different way.
What was the instigator? So you get to Full Sail and you know that you want to learn about cameras. You know that you want to learn about images, lighting. Did you know that you wanted to shoot movies? Did you feel like you were just curious? Did you know that did you want to stay in broadcast?
I think broadcast was easiest because it was what I understood and what I knew. There's a lot of different paths that were available through that program, but I think when I hit the lighting classes, and there's a backlot there, and this is 06, 07, so at the time they're still not quite half of what they are today in terms of the stage presence and the equipment presence, but the backlot and the stages had a 10-ton lighting package, and really getting to be hands-on with that stuff was an amazing experience, and seeing, this is what it takes to create a shot. And I think being in that environment and then being a grip for a few instructors who would take weekend jobs, and they'd usually bring somebody from a class on the side, and being able to make an income while I was there was an amazing experience. And I think that was an easy way. When I moved back to Michigan, Steph and I got married, we saw very quickly that the film industry starting to do more and more incentive-based productions in the States. Michigan had a 32% return on investment incentive at the time that I was there after Full Sail. So getting to jump in, and I met a gaffer and was in his shop in-house, and then he would take me as his best boy on features, and that was just an amazing experience, just being right place at the right time.
That's amazing. Is there a specific event or maybe a specific movie or job that you were on as a grip and as a best boy that you felt like you're like, oh, this is that next step? You're talking about the 10-ton lighting package, and you're saying, oh, this is a different level. Is there something that you worked on that stands out to you that you feel like was formulative to you in that world?
I think day in, day out in the shop, I can't discredit the value that was of working on broken fixtures, working on these things. Oh, this is how this light works. This is how this thing, progresses. Oh, this is what, shout out to Lowing Light and Grip in Wyoming, Michigan. They had this amazing system of making shot bags of really to a precise level, getting the weight to a precise weight. I mean, it was an amazing craftsman approach to and respect for what they did, for the things that they made and the things that they rented out. I mean, I can't imagine that experience differently, just because of seeing it through the eyes of a craftsman who really respected what they did. I feel like that's the easy answer, is that it started with them and that shop.
And that built a deeper sense of respect for whichever niche of the industry that you were in at that time, is what you're saying?
Yeah. And I think what I'm also trying to say is, as a freelancer, there's been many sets that I've been on, and in those sets you meet different kinds of folks. There are folks who are there, different experience levels, different different places in their careers, and many times you meet folks who are there to punch a time card, and maybe the magic's a little bit lost for them, and it's like, well, it's almost lunchtime. I hope there's a meal penalty today, and the focus is outside of the production at times. You hit somebody on a bad day, you find that pretty quickly. And I think being around folks that were great at their job and actually really cared about the creative and were really well respected by the Los Angeles folks who came to Michigan and said, yeah, we want to work with that shop because they're high quality technicians. And there's also that feeling of working in an incentive environment where, I didn't go up. I didn't go to Hollywood to sleep on a couch for years and wait tables or, to work in the industry like many folks who have put in the work to just get on sets. I think there were many times there were folks from Los Angeles who would come to Michigan, and there was oftentimes a resentful feeling or why is the work here? You'd oftentimes find, I'd say a select few who, again, on a bad day or, frustrated with the economy, whatever it is, you find folks who have lost that desire to do the thing. So I think, that being around folks who, want to do it day in, day out, and, from the creative and from the technical expertise, it's amazing, it's amazing to be around a community like that.
You speak about the magic. You speak about the magic and the wonder and the excitement. How do you keep that magic alive for you? Do you still feel that magic? Do you still see that magic? Does it come in waves? What is that like for you?
Yeah, I think it's, I think I've always been interested in things visual, whatever you believe is outside of this life. I think God speaks through visual means. I think there's these ideas and approaches that, to get into somebody else's shoes, to see a story be told about somebody else that, is not your life experience and not something you'd experience outside of, seeing that film or reading that comic or reading that book or being moved by an image or an idea. I think that broad strokes is always been interesting to me. I think there is, there's a magic there if you let it. Like I alluded to, it's very easy to, myself included, to find yourself discouraged by, one thing or another, a corporate red tape, or that feeling of, okay, this creative thing is going to go through several more iterations that are outside of me, and I was only able to provide this much into it. Now it's its own thing. Now it's, I'm a surrogate mother to this other, parent in that way, where, I've got to let that go to a certain extent. And I think that can be frustrating, but I love that idea of the short film, of that thing of, hey, we should make this thing because it would feel good too. And I mean, there's also reasons, like you sharpen the sword, you get better the more you put into practice, the principles that you love and that you are interested in, or if there's a new idea you want to play with and a new technology that you might not get a chance to because nobody's going to pay you to do it. So you have to self-fund it, or just, benevolence of the community. Hey, can I borrow this thing to just do this thing and make this thing so I feel good about this thing? Like I think that constantly recharging, what you're doing is important. And if you're in this mode of, great, so a lot of these kind of commercials in a row, I'd love to just do a narrative thing that, is a completely different idea, just to remind myself of, yeah, this sort of felt like to line up shots like this, or to light things this way, because there's nobody's looking over your shoulder. You're the one making the shots, with this community of people making a thing.
Beautiful. Tell me about how you went from Full Sail, going back to Michigan, and you were working in the lighting shop. Tell me about how that moved you into being a man behind the camera. How did you get into being a DP?
Yeah, it's real simple. All you have to do is shake somebody's hand that you've never met, say, I'm a DP, and then, half the time they'll believe you. And I think that's some of what it takes. And it's in jest, but it's not completely false. I think there's a certain point where, for me, from my experience, lighting world was my bread and butter. It was when I was making money at, but I went to Full Sail. I because I fell in love with the camera first and worked at cable access television because of the camera. So it was always a part of it for me. And I would do short documentaries or side projects, or, 100 some weddings over the years that have always, been getting better at the craft is how I always viewed it. And then when the film incentive disappeared in Michigan for a time and was thriving in Charlotte, that change for my wife and I when we moved on, and she was our teacher at the time, and she was there were other creative endeavors that were possible in Charlotte for both of us. It was interesting to see a new place and to also rebrand, essentially. I mean, the foot in the door when you meet somebody still is, your value prospect. And for me, it was always lighting. Hey, I love lighting. If you need a hand with something, and you meet folks over the years and, meet the community that way. But it was still, hey, I'm also a DP. I like to shoot. And then you just meet other people who are, on the way to wanting to make things, and, you make it together. And then all of a sudden you have a body of work behind you that, you made something with another person who's trying to make something too.
As a DP, so going into that, you swindle your way into becoming a DP.
Yeah.
You love lighting and you shake some hands. What do you feel like your first big break was? Or where do you feel like you said you're a DP, you get hired on something, you say, okay, shoot, now I have to, now I'm a DP.
Yeah. I think it probably goes to that first time you look at your last 12 months and you see the kind of jobs you've been taking. Okay, these are all jobs behind the camera, and I think that feeling is it. I shot my first feature in 2015, and I think that experience too of that long form narrative, 4 weeks in a row of just living in a story. I think that feeling was, that feeling. I still live with that idea and that feeling. Shout out to Camp Mana, to Eric and Guerrilla Pictures for that chance to sleep in a YMCA camp in northern Michigan. And
Camp Mana was your first?
Yeah.
Really?
First feature
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, man. So that was the first one I shot, and from there, I found a niche as well in the narrative world currently that could be gone tomorrow, but at least for now I'm in a narrative rhythm, and it feels like I'm a DP. And then it's not. I think that's a funny thing about life, right? It's it can ebb and flow like that, and we're in the big mini market of Charlotte, where it's it's not quite New York or Los Angeles, but there's still plenty here, and it's enough that my wife and I like it, and we like raising our kids here. We like the community that's here, and that's enough for now.
Yeah, man. So you DP'd your first narrative in 2015. Since then, you've done more narrative films. You've done commercials, and have you done series work as well?
Yeah, the first series just this last spring that just finished up, a 6-episode, streaming prospect. There's a lot of great content that's able to be tested in some of those smaller episode counts, when it comes to streaming. But of course, we're in a new era where a writer strike and an actor strike also means that landscape is changing for the positive, and to see what that creates, I'm interested in. But I think now in where the landscape has taken us, these 6-episode, trial runs of a series, are popular. And there's these shows like Dark Winds on AMC. It's amazing series that, these little 6-episode chunks that, the story's out there, and it's a season's worth of story. And so we played in that world a little bit this last fall, or this last spring.
How is it different technically? Talk to me about the technical side and the experiential side of the differences between like shooting a commercial, shooting a feature film, and shooting a series. How do you feel like you have to perform differently? How do you feel like you have to reach into your bag of tools differently for each of those?
The more time you get to spend on a story, I think the better it gets. I think that's an inherent principle in any industry, and with working with actors, the more time that they're in a character. I think that the more you can expound on, the more you can explore, the more you can play with, and I think the more opportunities you get to throw yourselves in a difficult spot when it comes to camera and lighting, and say, great, this set shows up a lot. How can we make sure we're standing true to the story we've created visually here, and get a new interesting shot in this place that we've seen, every day now. All of those challenges I think are worthwhile when it comes to, spending more time on a story. I think you have a chance of making it better than it could have been.
You're not just a DP, you're also a director. Talk to me about directing. How does directing differentiate from DPing to you, and how did you get into directing? Was that something that you wanted to do?
It's a great question. I think, in all fairness to the projects that I've directed over the years, I think it's just been an extension of the circumstances and the productions at hand, and working for producer Gary Wheeler and having him trust me in that way, I think was really foundational. But if I'm honest, I think it's really kind of a DP plus sort of, is the true credit that I consider it, or at least that's how I think about it, because so much of it is, great working through these visuals and then stepping out of the way of the collaborators. Because I think if I'm coming in to direct it, it's in that format, it was very much have the answers, or have an answer to a question in the script, and if you don't have the answer, explore it together and figure it out. And the actors, they're going to bring most of the character, and it's just honing in those moments live that either don't ring true, or they ring so true it makes you kind of change the perspective of what you do, every time you film that character. I think those sort of explorations, and I think if you open yourself up to what's happening in front of you, there's a powerful experience available to you. If you can say, you do the work, you build the foundation of a shot list, you build the foundation of these storyboards, these mood boards, whatever it is, within your version of the script, and then you have to trust your collaborators in their versions. And I think this tangent is worth it. The idea of the script is, I feel like it's read and perceived and put out in the world in, multiple iterations, but, at least, with the writer, it's one thing, and maybe the writer is different than the director, then that perception is brought into it. You bring an actor into the fold, they're going to have their perception of the character. You have all this footage, on a hard drive now, and an editor is going to look at it and not have any relationship to it, most likely, outside of, here's the story, now I'm receiving it, and they weren't on set for all the things that happened, or the reason you're so passionate about this one shot is not going to make sense to them, because if it doesn't ring true in post, it doesn't mean anything. And I think knowing that there's all these iterations of a story to be told, and the final product is often much different than its first ideation, I think latching onto that when it comes to directing, I think my approach in those situations is why it feels like DP plus, because in a lot of ways it should be. I want to have the collaborators around me speak into it, because every crew member has the ability to turn the thing and make it better if you allow it. It's just safeguarding the time and the creative space at the end of the day. Okay, I hear what you're saying. We don't have time for that idea, but can we do it this way? Or, I think that's what the directing can turn into at that time, safeguarding the script, essentially.
When you're reading a script, and when a script is presented to you, or you're let's say you're just in pre-production for something, or even pre-production, right? First drafts of the scripts or whatever. When you're looking through it, do you have a set of things that are important to you in the script, or are you waiting for different sparks to go off in your heart and in your head? As someone who has had very little experience reading narrative scripts, it's something that I find super interesting. What are you looking for, or what feelings are you looking for to grab you to say, hey, like, this is something that you should pour yourself into? And if there's a better way for me to ask that question, help me find it.
what I think of when I hear that question is I'm so grateful for DVD commentaries over the years and all the VHS behind the scenes that I watched when I was a kid, and I still gravitate towards them because everybody at different experience levels has that story of how they did the thing and made the thing. And I don't think there's a catch-all for it. All I can say is I've had a lot of experience in the ultra low budget region of features, and what I know works for me and what I know to be true is that if I'm open to the ideas that are coming in, especially from the actor perspective, at a certain budget level, you bring in the right actor for the job because they connect with it. It's the right scheduling time. It's the right thing. And it's not a scenario that you imagine where a director and actor are going to have this pre-pro time to really go through the script over and over to do these table reads. A lot of times it's a little bit quicker than that, and you're really trusting the actor to bring in, the reason that you brought them in the first place is they have this skill, they have this talent, their read on the character is going to be crucial. And having those initial meetings and knowing, okay, we don't have much more time to prep it, let's go in together, that's a huge piece of it, is saying, okay, I've got to trust this person with this. What I can bring is, again, the foundation. When I'm thinking as a DP, I can say bringing the foundation of that shot list, and as a director as well, the ideas of here's how I think it should be covered, and then staying open on set and not saying, I didn't get the shot this way because, well, you just learned something about the character that you didn't know because you didn't see it live, you didn't see it all. And sometimes, a shot list can be shaved from 7 shots for the scene to 2 because, the performance leads you a certain way, or whatever the production obstacle is that you need to confront. I think, there's a healthy bit of prep, but there's a healthy bit of, we'll call it magic that you really have to be open to.
It's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
You've spoken about having experience in ultra low budget stuff. I heard a story about a Brent Christy who shot 50 Cent Detroit movies.
Cool.
Can you talk about that?
Sure.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that specific comment means, but yes, Curtis 50 Cent Jackson had a run of films that he made in Michigan, and I worked on them in various aspects in lighting departments. So there were many times it was either as a grip or a lighting tech, or on a film called Setup, I was a gaffer after Dave had to step away. And who was the gaffer I worked with often, and so we were ended up being co-gaffers on that one after a while. But that was kind of the run of films that we did in that era. So yes, and I can say on this podcast, 50 Cent was an amazing person. Yeah, and he was did the bowling parties for the cast and crew. Did there'd be fans that would yell his name on the street when we were filming, and he would stop and say hi, and it was before the selfie, but it was, you could hug somebody and say hi. And I think that all I can say is God bless 50 Cent. But thankful for those opportunities.
Mm. Would you say that 50 Cent in a way helped you become a better filmmaker?
Guaranteed 100%, and I'm not liable to that statement, but I will say it here because it feels nice to say right now. And hopefully, hopefully that carries a long way. I will say those productions, again, an amazing experience just to see a thing get made, and the people that he brought with him in many ways, in writing, producing, acting, there's a lot to glean from those projects, and it was amazing to see them get made, to see a thing willed into existence.
Our mutual friend, big homie Bernie, he told me that some of your formulative stories of you as a person happened inside of Hot Topic as you were an employee.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hot Topic. Could you share some of that with me?
Absolutely. Yeah, Hot Topic was a time in my life where the film industry was not fiscally beneficial to who I wanted to be as a husband and as a filmmaker in general. So what that led to was finding other sources of income, as a first married man. So this is, getting to do the day-to-day jobs in lighting departments, and then on nights and weekends, or in the evening mall rush, going back to Hot Topic and folding the t-shirt. I mean, if you had a t-shirt right now, I could fold it in a Hot Topic way, and I still fold my t-shirts in my closet in that way. So if anything, it probably in a way raised me as maybe like a distant uncle. It was there, but I didn't really have much to offer in terms of what you'd stereotypically would want to see in an employee. But I can say that one Christmas I sold the most Michelangelo Snuggies in a day, which was 4. And I don't know how many people can say that. But that's a record I hold.
That's pretty incredible, actually.
You can check their website.
How much were the Snuggies? Do you remember?
It's $30.
$30. All right. Yeah. That seems appropriate for him.
Right. It's probably poorly made, so it's like, but it's just enough where it's, put it in and put the hood on. It was so it's peak Snuggie probably, right? 2008, 09, somewhere in there maybe.
Did you have bangs at the time or no?
No. I've never really had bangs except for when they were forced when I bleached my hair at a very young age, at 15, 14, and it was like forcing down. I've had curly Brillo hair, very similar to yours, but unfortunately I didn't really keep mine for long. Now, my hair is gone, for the most part. It's a cue ball under this hat.
You have a fantastic beard, though. The ratio of beard you have is something that I'm just extremely jealous of.
Well, it's all in the eye of the beholder, right? I live with this face in the mirror every day, so unfortunately I've seen every, pockmark and, acne scar. Isn't that funny about, how the human condition of, the things that, we see in others, but, at the end of the day, we've just seen way too much of ourselves that we start to discount it.
Beautiful. Is it true that you threw a PlayStation controller at a wall?
Yeah.
What?
Video games are certainly the peak angry, that I find myself in, or that I have to find myself.
You don't seem like a very angry person.
I'm glad the perception's there. I think it's on the other side of it. It's certainly this. Let me backtrack and say that as a whole, maybe the problem is that there's a finite amount of time to complete the task in a video game. The goal is to win the thing in the 5-minute, 10-minute, 20-minute increment, whether it's a game of FIFA, whether it's a game of Fortnite, whether it's, something between Mario Kart. And maybe that finality is where the frustration comes from. And, this is a loss. I think, in life, it's optimistic to say we don't have every day, but you know what? There's still another chance. This is an L here, but the wins may be around the corner. But in video games, it's a tighter window, and I think that frustration really comes out. It's harder for me to compartmentalize when I'm in the moment like that in a video game.
So paint the picture for us. Where were you? What were you playing? Who were you with? What happened?
Yeah, this is with John Metter. It's just the two of us in a room. I don't want to. The headline through a controller that can live on. I don't want to take away from that, but it was certainly the frustrated frisbee toss was the throw style. It didn't go full Hulk smash, raise over my head, throw to the ground controller moment, but it was probably a few steps away from that. So it was a frisbee throw into a brick wall. If you've been to Caravan, you see the wall there.
I see the indention of the controller.
That is a joke that I've heard told. I think the other thing that gives me peace about it, if there is anything, it was my controller for the system that I purchased. So I think there's some elements in there that I hope that the story would not be different if it was a different scenario, but it would be hard for me to smash somebody else's thing. I like to tell myself.
I'm so happy to hear that. All right, brother. I got maybe, I don't know,
2 more hours, no problem.
got a couple, yeah, just two more hours. All right, let's talk about owning gear.
Yeah.
Owning gear as a DP. Did you go into owning gear, and as a gaffer? Did you start buying gear? Was that something that you ever did?
Yeah, weddings was a starting place for me years and years ago before Full Sail had JVC 200s. It was right before the Panasonic P2 cameras came out, so it was still mini DV, owned and operated in that region. DSLR started to come out, and then like the T2i, T3i,
Go cameras.
right? Just the right price point. Operated in those worlds, but outside of that, I ebb and flow through gear, and at this point, it's probably been almost 10 years since I've owned a piece of gear, and I think that's just kind of been a decision. I think there's so many great relationships in town that I have with rental houses or with folks that I would much rather put the money into their pocket and get out of the of that overhead and taking care of the equipment, things like that. It just, I wouldn't say I won't do it again, but at this point in time, it's I'm happy to be out of it.
It's great. All right, here's a question that I find super useful to talk about, because I think everybody in our industry, at least that I know of, has kind of struggled with it. Talk about the creator's mentality, how to be mentally healthy while also chasing the nameless and shapeless desire to create something enough. In other words, the ebbs and flows of inspiration. How do you deal with those ups and downs?
It's I think going cheesy in description of it's the journey, not the destination, is got to be a piece of that. Where I think we have these incredibly creative times in our lives, and I think there are also incredible droughts. And unfortunately, the human condition doesn't always allow us to chase what we desire most, and it has a funny way of showing us that what we desired wasn't what we needed all along, or that actually the thing we desired was this different thing. So I think when you contextualize creativity in that way, I think you have to accept the finite scope of a story, of an idea, of a creative outlet, and if it needs, sometimes they need to die in ways that are painful, and sometimes they need to rise again like the phoenix in a way that we never expected. And I think if you keep yourself open to that and know that as hard as it can be in those seasons that can be months, years of not creating the thing you want to be creating, that as long as you're putting, I want to be careful saying putting in the work, because sometimes you don't know what the work is. I think sometimes it's, for me, it's, I'm a filmmaker. That's what I do for a living, but I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a comic book fan, I'm an enthusiast of movies and television shows. I'm really interested in design, or things that the things I look at and say that I feel something. If it's food, if it's a soccer match, whatever it is, I think knowing that those things can breed the creativity in doing the work, in building yourself, is just as important, because you also, the more you learn about yourself, the more you're putting in to the things that not only make you happy, but also make you a better person. The hard things, I think that also creates revelations of the thing I was trying to get at here creatively. I was going at it wrong, because really this is how I see the world. And I was afraid to say that, or I wasn't in touch with that until this point. And I think the longer you get to do it, the luckier we are to continue to do it. I think the more you realize about the stories you tell, the things that you want to make, and the things that you build, and how important it is to just make sure some of that is insular, make sure some of that is stuff that's reflective of you, because I think any good director, good DP, can pull from their life in terms of, this I resonate with, I've got a take on this, and I can move on it.
Do you feel like you struggled at any point in time to figure out how to do that, how to impart your own voice in perhaps somebody else's story or somebody else's performance?
Absolutely. And I think, when I think of directing in general, I've not, I don't currently have the skill to write a script or to bring something to life through dialogue, from out of the blue to existing. That piece of it is not there for me. I love, as a DP or as a director, coming alongside something that exists and expounding on it, or saying, what if it was this way, or what if it was that? I think that's part of the creative process. But I think something that I've long been interested in is, how do I tell the stories, that are mine, and that I can really be, that I have a take on. I think having a strong point of view and perspective is a crucial part to landing the plane on any good, creative endeavor. And the more fearless you can be in that, or, as I've done a lot of Westerns recently, and the John Wayne quote, bravery is not, I'm going to paraphrase it, the bravery doesn't mean you're not scared. It just means you're scared, but you saddle up anyway, right? So it's like doing the thing. It's not a lack of fear. Fearlessness is not the lack of it, but it's saying you're not going to let the fear dictate, your next move. I don't know if we said anything, but we really danced around some really nice ideas on that.
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. So you work on these bigger sets. You have a lot more people on sets to lead. And some of those days can be very stressful. Some of those days can be really amazing. How do you cultivate and create a positive set, and a set where people feel inspired to work? And then what do you think are the things that create a stressful set? I think calling those out and then telling us your strategies around those things. Love to know.
Yeah, I think time management and communication are the two biggest detriments to any production. And every production has those two problems in terms of they're to be faced. They're in front of you. How do you communicate what needs to be communicated? How do you manage the time that you have to create the thing? And I think being realistic about where you're at in both of those things is how you create a healthy environment, or to intend to create a healthy environment, at least, because I think it's all something you're fighting for the whole time, every day. You have to go in and say, okay, I did not tell art department about that thing that I moved because I didn't ask them, because I did the thing. I need to go communicate, my mistake, or I need to own my piece of that so we can move forward and go forward. Or, okay, I see they're not getting the vision yet, from a leadership perspective, being able to cultivate the vision and say, oh, this is the direction we're all heading in. Make sure there's no confusion. If any department along the way is confused about what you're doing, that means as a leader, you need to change something. You need to do something different. And finding what that change is and owning that responsibility as a leader on set is such a crucial part to building, that community and fostering that work environment where you can create the thing, but it's also a place where people want to be, because it's a place that you would want to be, and that's a community that you would want to be a part of. I think it's got to be, golden rule stuff too. Treat others how you want to be treated. I think every department level needs to be respected. I think every PA needs to be shown, humanity, despite it all. And to circle back to this idea of some of the best people on set are those who have not experienced a certain setup or in a certain environment, and to see the light in their eyes of, this is amazing, we're making something, and to be able to step out of the jaded years of having seen that 100 times and say, oh yeah, this is magic. I almost forgot that this is something really cool, that this is something really cool that we're doing, to have that reminder. Again, it's in the cultivation of the community that you're building around a production.
Dude, amazing. A few more before we go into our next segment. What outside of filmmaking makes you a better filmmaker?
I think right away, my wife is the reason I have any talent as a DP when it comes to the creative side, that having a taste, having an opinion. I think she's so good at cultivating ideas. And while she is not a person who puts herself out there in a way where the things that she makes are seen by many, I think that's something that that we're still working on together. We're working on a creative company right now where we can just put things out that we like to see. But she's so skilled in ceramics and printmaking and jewelry making and textile design and quilt making. She just has all these talents, and she's an amazing chef and cook. She just I think the way she sees the world has really shaped who I am, and having a relationship with her is I've grown so much just as a creative, just being around her excitement for life and her excitement for what's around us. I think being a father has this way of seeing the cycle of life, of seeing, oh, that's amazing to a little kid, because it's so simple, and their perspective, it can be very simplified and very rejuvenating as an adult to see. They have a lot of faith in this. They have a lot of there's the cynicism isn't there for them. Whatever it is that has crushed me as an adult is not crushing to them when they see it. That's, I think, being open to the world around you and the people you put yourself around is such a huge part of that.
Yeah, dude. And then the inverse, what inside of filmmaking makes you a better person, better husband, better father, better friend?
I think being able to, for me, I think it's recognizing the addiction of production, of a new set every day, of all these different, being, oh, I'd never be invited in this mansion if I wasn't shooting right now on this location. I think there's that side of it. There's the production side of building a thing, and that addiction of the shot listing of what could be. Pre-production is this magic time in any production where anything is possible because it's in your head, and you haven't sat down and said, okay, I don't have the money, or I don't have the resources. You're still in this pure area, in this pure ideation stage of, yeah, maybe this is possible. Am I crazy? I don't know. Like, there's a magic to pre-production. And I say all that to say that having that is important. I think building the things that excite me and speaking into those in my real life, I think also gives, I want my sons to see me excited about the work I do and the things that I'm into. And at the same time, they just know I hold a camera. I'm a cameraman to them, and I think that's okay. That I don't think it has to be any more complicated than that right now for our relationship. But they've got to be on set and hold the thing. And I think whatever's feeding it to you as a person is a really important thing in how you have your personal life, because I think there's times of I'm not present as a father because I'm thinking about that shot. There's times where I'm on set and I'm thinking about my kid at school because they're dealing with that difficult thing at school. Finding that balance is, continue to fight for it, because it's just going to keep being a fight.
Beautiful, dude. All right, boss. This is a rapid fire section. Last looks, baby. You ready? Best movie, worst movie.
Heavyweights has a special place in my heart. Yeah, as being a fat kid at 9 years old and seeing that movie come out and having a place to laugh. And I always look to it as one of the first movies to really take me into enraptured by filmmaking. I don't know. The worst movie, I don't really have something off the top of my head. I mean, probably some short film I made in film school. Oh, there's a film, speaking of my broadcast experience, we made a production in film school where coming into a narrative world for the first time as the cameraman, I thought you just always did a countdown, like they do in live television. Okay, we're live in 5, 4, 3, 2, and then you have the silent one, and then you have the go. And it was like, instead of action, it was like a countdown every time for like 6 hours of the day. and it's like the instructors are just like sitting back there, like he's shaking that. But it's just like one of those funny, embarrassing things. Like, I guess I thought I had to count down.
You're around here, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Around these parts, huh?
New York City. It's definitely one of those moments. So it's probably that film, whatever it's called, wherever it is.
Dude, beast. Favorite camera, least favorite camera?
I'm so tech atheist when it comes to which one. The quick fire answer is what camera is going to be, what camera do I have the resources for? It's going to be my favorite camera. I will say though, I've shot a lot on the Alexa in the last 5 or 6 years, and in the Alexa family, and I think that my color space experience there has been great.
What about your
least favorite camera is now the JVC 200 mini DV camera, because you know what? Mini DV was not the way. If I only could see where I'd be 18 years later, I would have really made a difference.
You just gotta throw some fisheyes on that bad boy's kickflip, dude. That's all you need.
That's probably what I needed. I tell you what, the Spike Jonze films in general, like I don't have the core balance to achieve much on the skateboard, but I do have huge respect for all the amazing skate videos and the amazing world that was created by people who can move fast and show other people what it looks like to move fast.
For what it's worth, man, you are an honorary kickflipper. You are a member of the kickflip club.
I received that. Well, I can't wait to do kickflips after this podcast on video.
Let's do it. Favorite lens, worst favorite, or what least favorite lens?
Yeah, I've done a lot of work on a 35 to 40 range of lensing in terms of that being the only lens on a short film. I've always been drawn to that for whatever reason. Least favorite lens, boy, those L series glass, they don't always hold up when you're when you're at a wedding shoot and you drop it in the lake. It's really embarrassing.
Sorry, this wasn't completely water sealed.
Yeah. So maybe they should consider that.
It's an oddly specific scenario.
A specific scenario, overwriting SD card live in a wedding.
Oh yeah,
really happened, and boy, we lost a certain amount of footage.
You blame the L series for that?
That's the only thing I could do. Was when I was describing it to them, I detached the lens and you just dropped it right in the water, and I think that distraction really saved the day. So from that perspective, yes, the L series glass was kind of my savior.
Kind of came in clutch.
I just realized
sounds like
my favorite
love too.
My favorite lens is the L series 70 to 200.
Okay.
I'd like to change that answer.
Totally. No, I got it. Favorite crew member?
It's the kid who comes to set for the first time with a gleam in their eye. It's every time. Attitude over experience.
I love it. Least favorite crew member?
Myself. When I was in film school, counting down. that
the silent one guy.
Yeah. And if you could go back in the past and you give yourself a hug, that's the guy I would go find. It's gonna be okay. You're gonna think about other things than counting down one day.
What's your hottest take in the industry?
Oh man. Oh, I kind of alluded to it. Camera doesn't matter. None of it matters.
No.
It's it's like if you can pull $20 out of your wallet and buy a bunch of scoop lights from Home Depot and some bulbs and shoot on your iPhone, you can do it. And I don't think it's an over-exaggeration. I mean it in the sense of, if you're hungry to shoot something, you have no other means, and you are interested in lighting, you can do many of the things that you want to do in a small, specific scenario, or build a production around the deficit around you. I think there's ways to get your ideas out that I think we stop ourselves from progressing. I know I've had those thoughts of, I can only do so much. I'm limited because of XYZ. It's not always true. The resources you have in front of you are oftentimes what you're going to create that next thing with, and that you're end up being excited about at the end of the day. And I think also you find yourself in these places of, this idea is the idea. It's going to be amazing. I've got to execute it in this specific way. I think that can happen for a lot of people. But I think we're also in a place where if you just go chase the idea with the resources you have, maybe it's a little bit less than what you thought it would be, but then it births a new idea that is oftentimes better. And I think chasing those ideas with new resources, I think you have to. And I think that there is still truth to the cheesy thing where people say, just shoot it on an iPhone, just shoot it on the thing. There's truth to that. And I think you do have to follow that sometimes.
Hey, man, your next feature, iPhone L series.
JVC 200.
JVC 200. P2 card in the mini DV.
EF mount, 70 to 200. We're going to put the worst, what I said was worst on my list, we're going to put it together. We're going to do a production on it. I'll never work again in the industry, but it will be worth it for this experiment.
Nothing matters.
It doesn't matter.
Brent, what do you have to say to your fans?
I just have to say, Godspeed on the journey. Godspeed on the journey. Good luck out there.
Thank you for being on, bro.